might get started as more people come in. Will not be introducing myself in the chat. With that, I'm gonna go to our Executive Director, Donald Whitehead, with a opening statement.
Well, good afternoon, and I'll be brief as usual. Welcome everyone today. Feeling energized. We just last night had a presentation and kind of remembrance of the anniversary of the Montgomery bus boycott, and I left that meeting with a lot of hope that we can really start to make a difference there. Every day, it feels like there's a new threat emerging. Just had one very serious threat that happened in Austin, Texas, and we can't afford to wait. We can't afford to rely on the kind of advocacy that we've been doing for the last few years. It's really time to start to demand for some change. So we'll be talking about that today, and hope that all of you will join us. We will this year be moving from ideation to action. So I hope you'll be able to walk alongside us. Some of the work may be a little bit more controversial than we've been in previous years, but we hope that we are able to make enough positive noise to make a difference. We have a lot of rough road ahead of us, so I hope that you'll stay with us. I hope that it doesn't get too uncomfortable for people, but in truth, it's time we make people uncomfortable. There's so much different information out there, and I'm going to give you just a quick quote from Mark Mitchell from the Working Families Party. He said that you don't fight misinformation with better information. You fight it with solidarity and organizing. And we must not surrender in advance. And these are the key takeaways that we have to remember for today, that we can't fight what's happening out here with just providing better information, challenging the stereotypes. We have to fight it with solidarity and organizing. So I hope you'll be with us. And we look forward to a year where we start to turn the tables on some of this. So thank you for joining us. Look forward to a great call today.
Thank you, Donald. As Donald said, we'll be discussing a lot today about where we go next. Because as you said, we have said many things. We know what the problems are. Let's start doing actions now. It's time to do the work that we all here for today. If you just joined us right now, please introduce yourself in the chat. And if you're new, this is your first time, welcome. And also, let us know, like in the chat, we'll follow up with you as well. So make sure you are involved in everything that we do. Make sure that you are receiving all the emails and the invite that we send out. Thanks for joining us. We have a lot of things to talk about today. My next person, I'm gonna call up the Assistant Director of the campaign, Adora, to talk about the state captains and where we are and the meeting we held and where we are going with that. Adora?
Thank you, Francis. Good afternoon, everyone. We did, as he mentioned, kick off the state captains last month, and we had what I believe to be a riveting meeting, a great introduction to the new steps that we want to take toward bringing the whole country together as a whole. You all do the work already, and what we are trying to do is to bring everyone into a common space where we can be transparent with one another about county, state, local, and federal legislation and initiatives that need to be changed or fought for. So during the meeting, we did discuss the roles and responsibilities, and we did receive feedback from those that did attend. This month, we will not be having a meeting. It's usually on it. Now it's supposed to be every third Thursday of the month, and of course, Christmas is coming up, so we will not be holding the meeting. We will not be holding this month's meeting, but we will be back into the swing of things next month. We also will be sending out an email with a few questions that we would like you all to answer and send back to us so that we can start curating our action plan for 2025. And if you have not volunteered to be a state captain and would like to volunteer, please reach out to myself and Francis personally, and we will get you the follow-up information. And also, please do not hesitate to send this out to your network, constituents, and colleagues, because our goal is to have at least 2 to 3 volunteers for each state. As of right now, we do have 32, actually 33 volunteers over 18 states, so that is great, and we're just looking to continue to grow that. Um, but yes, that please let us know if you would like more information about it, or if you would like to volunteer, and we would be happy to follow up with you. And I see Renee has a question.
Yes, Renee?
This question is for Donald. Okay, I've been getting some calls and people that's like first start up, okay, or just starting up. Some of them don't even have 501(c)(3)s, and they have like organizations to help around homelessness. Okay, does this organization, okay, could take them on and parent them, okay, until they get their 501(c)(3)s? Is that something that y'all do? And also, another question I have for Donald, that he says that we're gonna not do no more talking and we're gonna start doing action. Okay, so I would like to know how that action would look like, and what actually is the captain's job in these states. Are they gonna actually, okay, do action, or is just gonna be more like document and report?
Thank you, Renee.
So-
Donald, you can answer the first question, but the second part, Renee, we will be discussing further. We want to make sure we go through the agenda, and then we'll get a lot of time to discuss about the state captains and our next actions. Donald?
So we have certainly supported the growth and development of nonprofits. Last year, we actually provided support as a fiscal sponsor for a grassroots organization, and they were successfully able to get their own 501(c)(3). Obviously, we can't do that for every organization. We are already in contact with Funders Together. We actually have a meeting planned to talk about how we can further support grassroots organizations. At this time, certainly we we're not in a position where we could provide financial support, but we are actually pursuing opportunities to do that. We will be, as soon as I leave this call, I'll be finishing up a grant for some support, potentially through the AmeriCorps program. So we are actively looking for ways to support organizations that are emerging. The other part of what we do is we provide training and technical assistance through our LEADA program for groups that want to involve people with lived experience in leadership. We are also working to create a series of trainings throughout the year for people to understand a little bit more about the kind of direct action that we're talking about. And in a true organizing fashion, we're not going to provide a blueprint for what people want to do in their own community. True organizing works with a community to help them decide on their own, based on their own geographic concerns and political concerns, what they would like to do in their community. So we're going to be assisting them once they decide what they want to do in their community, but we're not going to be directing people. We will do our own direct action, but we'll support the direct action that is developed in communities. So we'll give them every bit of support we possibly can. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you,
Yes, it
Donald.
did.
Thanks,
Thank
Renee.
you.
Thank you, Renee, for your question. I'll go to David.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly acknowledge our gratitude for the NCH's support for the Miami Coalition to Advance Racial Equity. You guys provided the seed that we needed, that the water, the nourishment that we needed to grow as an organization. And so we have, and we're becoming an increasingly influential organization here in Miami-Dade County. Really, reporters call us up all the time about any type of policy implications of pending and implemented legislation. So you guys are critical to our growth, and we appreciate that.
Thank you, David. Of course, this work requires all of us to be united, and that's what we aim to do, and we continue to grow in that capacity. Hence why we are really focusing on our state captains and also coordinating states so that we can work in unity. I'm going to go to Mustafa.
Yes, so this is an interesting topic of discussion because I asked this same question maybe about a month or so ago about the NCH extending either an exemption or allowing some kind of assistance with being able to find a grant or having a grant writer help us with being able to find the funding. I don't know what type of support was given to the Miami Coalition, but when I asked for any kind of assistance or for the NCH to assist us with what it is that we had going on, I was told that that's something that the NCH doesn't do. So I'm a little bit confused because we are in need of assistance down here with projects that we have, not asking for financial assistance from the NCH, but at least to being able to have some kind of assistance advocating for what it is that we got going on, getting in contact with, different people or helping us be able to source and find the funding we need in order to help us with our agenda, which we're actually in progress of doing now, but would be a lot more helpful if we had support of the NCH, which is the coalition of all organizations, like the assistance of any organization that will possibly be able to help us what it is that we're doing. Being that I don't have my 501c3, but I would love to be able to have an exemption being extended to us so somebody can apply for the grant for what it is that we have going on, oversee the money and how it's being utilized out here, so we can go ahead and get actively involved in trying to help assist the homeless down here in Baltimore. But I was told that wasn't even an option. So I'm a little confused right now.
Thank you, Mustafa.
Yeah, not really sure, Mustafa, who told you that. That's not what I shared in our individual conversation. I know I left the phone early, so. But the difference is that we have a couple of organizations that have been designated as field sites. So the operation of the field site is a little different from what we do on an individual basis with an organization. Happy to get on a call with you, and I think I did suggest a couple of foundations in Baltimore that might be helpful, but I think that's a conversation we can have offline, and we'll have a conversation with anybody else, and we'll do what we can to give you direction towards foundations on an individual basis, but we have not started a process where we wholesale do that. That's what we're going to be rolling out next year. Again, the Miami field office is an actual field office, so there's a different level of support that we can provide for them, but we're happy to help walk you through the process of getting your funding and 501c3. And I'm sorry that you got misleading information, but we can talk about that individually. If you have my email, just drop me a line and we can have a conversation.
Thank you, Donald. Thank you, Mustafa. Yes, do follow up with Donald. We're able to assist you in that capacity. Next, I'm going to go to my next speaker. Actually, one of the members is a field office from California, so LA. Like some of the work that we do with the field offices is going to be exemplified by Mary. Mary, you want to talk about the NCH partnership with Progressive and how you've been working on like over there in California?
Yes, thank you, Francis. Yes, so Progressive is, I think, our second largest donator to NCH, and during the summer and now in the winter, they have created kits, hygiene kits that I have been distributing. This summer campaign was so successful that they've doubled it for the winter, which is lovely, and I have extras. I'm going to make more bags. But the beauty of it also is the organizations I'm reaching out to have really connected with. I have done their events. We're really working in the neighborhood, and I think it's going to make a really cool 2025 because we're in this action of just passing along these kits. We're actually talking and coming up with strategies to help the community. And a super cool thing that happened was what I do is I report back to Progressive and I share the organizations and their information and what they do. And I did this yesterday, and within a couple of hours, I managed to get both organizations volunteers. So Progressive's now going to become a volunteer for these, on the street reach out groups. So I just think I'm all for actions. I'm all for demonstrating, but I think we need to be out helping because that's not going to solve it fast enough, and people are really struggling out there. So you need to be on the street. I don't have a lot, but I give what I can, whether it be food, clothing, whatever, I just think that we need to rise, and the organizations that I'm connecting with believe in that as well. And one group, believe we were saying we're just going to be out in the street 2025, and we're going to show our government and our local government who we want to be in the future. So, but we've gotten a lot from just these kids and just connecting, and I don't know, it feels really good just to be of service in a small way. So it's just a good reminder that it doesn't have to be a big action. It can be individual, and we can all show up. And just by I'm one person, and I doubled the donations. I've gotten volunteers. I mean, that means, what could we do if there was 20 or 10, So I'm grateful for this work, because after having that conversation, I'm like, okay, 2025, I'm ready now. I was a little scared because people are being so negative. But, oh, and another thing I'll just tell you, the one organization told me they have gotten 150 volunteers now since the election. So we're arming up. I think we're going to have a good 2025 if we all get on the streets and serve. So.
Thank you, Mary. Yeah, that's the power building work that we are doing across the country is very critical for what we intend to do in 2025 in partnership with all of you on this call. And like even those who are not like on this call, because it's going to take all of us here and those outside of this call to actually make things happen. So thank you, Mary, for your work out there in partnership with us and Progressive as well. Next, I'm going to actually go to our next partner, RAP, Paul Bowden. We'll talk about also some amazing survey work they've been working on for the outreach. Again, being on the street, that's the topic of today. So, Paul, you're available now to speak on some update on the survey? I see Rap is on the call, but I don't think he's open the mic yet, so I'm going to give him some time.
Oh, sorry, I fucked up. Sorry, my bad. I was on mute.
Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, so no, I guess it's just to let folks know that we started doing the outreach. We got a group in Pittsburgh that just heard about it and contacted us that's going to be doing it. And we tabulated the initial 112 or so far, and the trends are pretty fucking strong. What RAP does is we conduct this outreach, and right now we're doing it in 13 cities. And from the cumulative feedback, where there's common threads identified, we identify the priority issues for the organizing that follows. And so as we're out there doing the same shit, fighting sweeps we've been doing for 35 years, this is a time to stop and check in and really get a broad spectrum in several languages across the communities of what are the impacts, what are the priorities, what do they want us as organizers to be telling people about sweeps? Like, who else can talk to that better than the people that are or have been or are fighting these fucking dehumanizing laws that are getting more and more aggressive? And so we're building that out. While you're fighting a sweep is not the best time to try to do a survey with people about sweeps. So it's really about the ongoing street outreach that any organizer around the issue of poverty and homelessness and shit should be doing anyway, just as part of the organizing. And using that to really document and get in writing and concrete numbers. 91% of the people we've talked to so far were unable to access legal support while the cops are fucking with them. You know, that becomes a priority. How do you fix that? How do you address that? How do you not fix it, because none of us are that fucking powerful, but how do you begin to really fight for addressing and filling that gap? So it's just, you know, there's about, I don't know, maybe 35 questions in it. It's about where you offered a referral, because they're always talking about how we're service resistant. They're offering us all of these great services, and you see that 67% of the people weren't offered shit. And of those that did get offered a referral, it was a freaking shelter bed. And that means other people get kicked out of the shelter system. So it's just a way of getting concrete direction, so that when the organizers are sitting around the table, they're not making decisions on behalf of anybody. They're following the lead of the people that they've documented their conversations with. And so it's up there on the website. We, you know, when these Pittsburgh people hit us up, it was like, if you're going to do outreach and document the shit, we'll help you tabulate it. We'll give you your local info as well as connect it to the broader state and national effort, and just build a concrete, accountable base of repping what people are telling you as opposed to speaking on people's behalf. So that's the shit that we're working on out here in the rap land of Oregon, California, Montana, you know, we're out and about, Denver, and we're doing this outreach in a bunch of those cities.
Thank you, Paul. Thank
Sure.
you for great work. For sure, at the same time, people with lived experience, so those experiencing homelessness is critical and is also integral part of NCH's mission and vision as well. So thank you for the work. Does anybody has any comment or question, statement for Paul?
I mean, I just think it's important to remember, just because we've been homeless don't give us the right to speak for other unhoused community members. People can speak for themselves if you take the time to listen and document what they tell you. We don't need more leaders. No more leaders.
Thank you, Paul. I want to go, Renee, with a question or statement.
Yeah, I got a question for Paul. Okay,
Go.
Paul. So,
Go.
how would you said that the encampment and dismantling encampments and stuff like that. What would you like to see the government do? Okay, do you want the people to stay out there in encampment if it's a way that these people can be housed or get vouchers and have immediately housing on demand? Would you be a considerate of that?
Geez.
I'm just asking.
I know I get asked that question all the fucking time. And, you know, like I got a little sign on my office wall that says, see a tent, cool, leave it the fuck alone. Like leave people the fuck alone until we restore the HUD funding that was cut that created the shit in 1983 that we started opening emergency shelters. And instead they've destroyed over 500,000 units of public housing since 1994. So I say, let's address the cause and effect of so many people living unhoused, which is the commodification of affordable housing programs, or the total wiping out and annihilation of affordable housing units in Section 8, USDA, and HUD. Let's address what created the shit. Because prior to 83, when I was just starting out in this shit, we didn't have general public emergency shelters. We didn't have waiting lists for families and redefining families, whether they're homeless enough to get a fucking shelter bed. We've done anything but address what created the problem in the first place. And I say it's high time to leave these people the fuck alone and let's start addressing what really is at the root of the problem.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay.
Thank you, Paul, and Lorraine, thanks for your question. If you have any more questions or comments, please refer them to Paul. Paul, if you can put your email in the chat, people can reach out to you, that would be great. And if you just join us, welcome. Please introduce yourself in the chat. And if this is your first time, please also let us know so that we can be able to follow up with you. Make sure that you are receiving all our mailing information so that you are keeping up with what we are moving on from 2025. Thanks for joining us. Next, I'm going to go to Sue, who is the chair of our policy for NCH and also a board member. You're going to talk about some national updates and also the NCH agenda with 6 pillars of the campaign. Sue, go ahead.
Thanks, Francis. And I apologize, I'm off screen. I've had internet issues today. I'm also on vacation. So just want to give some general updates just on the election so folks are aware of where we're at right now. As all of you know, Donald Trump is our president-elect and had 312 electoral votes, 49.9% of the popular vote. Vice President Kamala Harris had 226 electoral votes and had 48.4% of the popular vote. In the U.S. House, it's an interesting situation where currently the Republicans have 220 seats and the Democrats have 215 seats. So we will see the House stay Republican. One of the things that will be happening, though, is that we've had already one resignation with Matt Gaetz from the House of Representatives, and we have 2 other representatives that probably will be joining the Trump administration. So what we're looking at in early 2025 is a very closely divided House of Representatives of 217 Republicans and 215 Democrats. We will have special elections probably in April of 2025. So there, is some reconfiguration that will continue in the House. In the Senate, we have the Senate has flipped to Republican in the next administration. 53 Republicans, 47 Democrats, and independents that tend to vote with Democrats. It does mean that it will still take, assuming that we keep the filibuster, Democrats to vote with Republicans to pass major pieces of legislation. So it still will require a lot of bipartisan support. And it's helpful that we are requiring in both the House and the Senate bipartisan support to move legislation together. It really does provide an opportunity for all the voices to be heard and to really try to create solutions that will work for everybody. As most of you know, we are currently under what's called a continuing resolution. Congress did not finish their job in passing a budget prior to October 1st of this year. So we currently are in fiscal year 2025 with the federal budget year, and we are under what's called a CR, or continuing resolution. That's where we continue the funding levels at the same level that we had during this last fiscal year. That's good that we did not have a government shutdown, but what it does mean is that it does not provide enough dollars to keep all the housing opportunities going that we have right now. There was some attempt prior to the Thanksgiving recess to see if we could actually pass a fiscal year 2025 budget. That failed. And so now what they're working on is another continuing resolution. Francis and Adora have all this information and can send that to you if it's not already been sent to you. So some of the things that we are looking at right now in a potential continuing resolution as they have come back from the Thanksgiving recess and to avert a Christmas shutdown is still that we need $100 billion in emergency disaster relief to deal with hurricanes Helene and Milton. We are out of dollars with the Small Business Administration, which basically helps rebuild apartment buildings, help homeowners that did not have insurance, as well as other infrastructure things. We did get some dollars in the first continuing resolution to help FEMA with the immediate needs. The other issue that we are looking at that probably will not need to be addressed is that we, at the end of this year, supposedly should hit our debt ceiling, which is what we have to be able to borrow to keep the government solvent. What we're looking at right now is Treasury is expecting that this default would not happen until into early 2025. So this will probably not be a part of the continuing resolution. So there is negotiations that are happening right now. Those details are not being disclosed. Right now, we're probably looking at a 3-month, another 3-month continuing resolution. This current continuing resolution ends December 20th. So looking at something that would go into March. The tax cuts that were done during the previous Trump administration expire at the end of the year. That will not be a part of this continuing resolution. That will be something that will be looked at in 2025 if that is continued or not. I will put into the chat after I'm done just the impacts, and it's devastating impacts on affordable housing when you continue with continuing resolutions and how it throws into some level of chaos, grants getting out through the different HUD programs. And then there also is a link to where we were at this summer in regards to budget levels in the House, Senate, and the President's budget. So I will also put that into the link. Just want to put a plug in again, as Adora talked about, in regards to state captains for the Bring America Home Now campaign. We recognize that in the new administration that there is a good chance that more funding will go directly to states to make decisions on how to use dollars. There'll be more state and local control, less federal government, probably a decrease in regulations, which can be very helpful in regards to potentially communities really designing with people experiencing homelessness responses that meet their needs, as opposed to having HUD or other federal agencies tell us how to use dollars at the local level. And so we want to really look at ways that we can use the change as ways that we can use it as opportunities to really make our federal dollars work within our communities that really meets the wants and needs of people experiencing homelessness. So as a part of the state captains too, we will be sharing ways that we are doing different things in our state. So Minnesota has drafted, we opposed the Supreme Court ruling in regards to criminalizing people that are experiencing unsheltered homelessness in public spaces. So we have drafted a very short piece of legislation with a number of different groups, including Minnesota NAMI, the National Association of Mental Illness, and other groups that are working on it to basically stop criminalization of people that are experiencing unsheltered homelessness on public lands. It's a very short piece of legislation that we believe that we have a very good chance of Minnesota passing. So I'll turn it back to you, Francis.
Yes.
Francis, will you be able to send out information to people?
Yeah, so yeah, we'll follow up with that. You're breaking a little bit, but thank you so much. For those who have any questions for Sue, please, Sue, if you can put your email in the chat, and people can reach out to you, especially for the policies that you're working on as well in Minnesota. Thank you, Sue. We'll move on to the next item on our agenda, so that we can have plenty of time for discussion like as a group. So with that, I'll go to Anthony. You can speak briefly on the press conference yesterday, and also the next steps on how we collaborate moving forward as we organize. Go ahead, Anthony.
Well, thank you, Francis. I'll try to, pardon me, I'll try to get through this kind of quickly. Yes, we did have, Donald mentioned that we had this event last night. I think it was very successful. I'm sorry. We had planned it, the coalition. We want to thank the coalition for co-sponsoring and helping us get the word out. And we had, again, we lifted up the 69th anniversary of the Montgomery bus boycott, and we scheduled this event in particular because, as Donald was indicating in his opening remarks, the time has come to move towards an orientation of direct action, of confrontation, and we think of strategic planning for a sustained and durable campaign that's actually going to be in scale comparable, step by step, to what we had in 1989. When, as some of you remember, 250,000 people marched to Washington, D.C., including Donald and our National Union, the Coalition, and a March for Housing Now in October of 1989. So it was an excellent event, and we were getting a lot of feedback from people that participated, and they were especially encouraged by we had these half a dozen people from the coalition on the call, on the Zoom, and I see them on the screen right now. So we want to really thank them for that. Just to report, in keeping with this orientation towards the direct action, strategic planning, and confrontation, and I like the way Donald put it, from ideation to action, that out here in California, where we have the majority of our members of the National Union of the Homeless, we are moving very directly into campaigns built around the increased repression and sweeping of the homeless encampments that we have already organized into the union. We've gotten some success with restraining orders, just most recently, the day after Thanksgiving, in one of our new locals in Vallejo, California, which is a very poor town. It was a town dependent on a naval station, the Mare Island Naval Station, for years. That closed down in the 90s, and since then they've been very hard pressed with a disproportionately large number of homeless people. We got a restraining order to stop the destruction of one of the encampments. We're going to be in court on have a hearing on December 13th with that. In Novato, very similarly, we are fighting the city there. We had a major battle 2 years ago and forced the city to officially recognize a union run camp there, and to officially establish a official city committee on housing and homelessness that Jason Saris, our local union president, is actually chair of that committee. And finally, with regard to most recently, I don't know, I guess it was national news, where we had this young high school student, Jose Zamora, in San Jose, who committed suicide. He was on the football team at one of the local high schools, and he was constantly being bullied. He was spat upon, punched, because he was homeless. And there's been a spate of media coverage here. Santa Clara County, which is where San Jose is located, is is number one in the country for youth homelessness, including student homelessness. And just as an example, San Jose State University has 4,000 homeless students and has an actual homeless student union on campus. So there, I know that many of you were out there in Santa Clara for the recent, what I heard was a fantastic gathering of 400, primarily homeless and formerly homeless leaders and activists. You were there, and so you were right there at the ground zero for youth homelessness in California. So we're developing a campaign around the unfortunate death by his own hand of this young kid, Jose Zamora. And we know that we talked about this last night too, that the number of homeless people that perish every year, reaching near genocidal proportions, people comparing it to really systematic lynching of people who simply have no other place to be except on the street. So we're moving forward with that. I'm going to put into the chat our national union. Every winter we have what's called the Winter Offensive. We're having what we call a people's hearing, and that's going to be on Tuesday, December 10th. I'll put that into the chat, and so we encourage everybody to participate in that. And finally, I'll end by saying that we are finally in a position in 2025 to organize our first in-person California State Homeless Union Convention. And we are definitely going to be inviting representatives from across the country to be our guests and to also participate. It's a state convention, but we definitely want to bring in our national, our local unions we have around in the 10 states where we're organizing, and of course the partner organizations here to see if we can maximize attention and maximize unification of what must become a very broad and aggressive movement. So,
Anthony.
thank you.
Thanks, Anthony. We appreciate you, and please put your email in the chat. People can reach out to you if they have any questions or comment and follow up. That's fantastic work. With that, actually, like there's a lot of actions coming up as well as we're talking about collaboration. Soon we'll have a call to discuss about how we unite on that effort to make sure we are all coordinated in our efforts. So looking forward to that again. For now, so we actually have an hour or so of actually just an open discussion for the group. We're thinking about, so we're looking up to next year. We're thinking about just having like some training opportunities. So with that, I'll let Donald set that up, and we can have, have an open discussion as well as talking about where we go from here regarding the direct actions coming up. Donald?
Sure, thank you, Francis. And this actually is particularly timely based on Mustafa's comments. You know, a lot of organizations are really ramped up for dealing with the threat matrix that is going to be actually coming to fruition with the current administration. And a lot of people really don't know, because we haven't done enough of it, what the strategy is to combat some of it. So we're going to be talking about, what are some of the things you would like to understand. One of the first things we'll be doing is something that was used back in the late 80s, early 90s, was housing takeovers. And so there's a lot of information that's been memorialized about how to do it the right way. I know Anthony will tell you that one of the things they used to do was call before and let, these were HUD properties, and let HUD know that it was about to happen, which cut down on some of the conflict, but also made sure the message was still strong. But I would also wanted to just react to a couple of things in the chat, and also to Renee's question. Paul, I think, answered it quite well, but the issue is that what we see communities moving to is criminalization and arresting, finding, and jailing people. And we know that that is not a solution to ending homelessness in any way. What we've seen in Project 2025, which is the blueprint for what might happen over the next few years, is that what they're considering is what basically are concentration camps, and putting people in these sanctioned encampments and eliminating permanent supportive housing. Now, some people may agree with that, but we have seen that permanent supportive housing it is not the solution, it's not the be-all and end-all, but it does get people off the street and keep people off the street for a length of time. And we don't have enough of that kind of housing, so it's very important that we continue to build affordable housing in that way. And we've already seen a glimpse of what the administration may be kind of moving towards in Texas. So a few days ago, there was a lawsuit that was put in place by Ken Paxton, and that lawsuit was to make a permanent supportive housing facility a public nuisance. And it's going to be an interesting challenge, because the Somerset permanent supportive housing program is actually a faith-based program. And there's a lot of protections for faith-based programs, but I think this may be a marker so that it can move out of the legislative branch and out of the judicial branch and into the legislative branch. So this may be a precursor to attack, because there's a lot of testing that gets done in Texas that becomes the the strategy for the whole country. So we see this as a really important case. And so that's just a glimpse of what's already happening now. In the last administration, there were a lot of things that left us, like affirmatively furthering fair housing. Also the equal access rule, both of those. If people don't know about them, we can put the information about them in the chat. But those are things that were removed from the protections for marginalized groups in this country. So I say all that to say that we don't know exactly what's going to happen. As we did before, we met with the Interagency Council Director, had some initial meetings with the administration, and gave them the opportunity to share with us what would happen. And what happened was not the direction we hope to go in to solve homelessness. And we know that many communities have started new criminalization practices. California in particular, there's dozens of cities that have initiated these, and it's starting to spread. So we have to get in front of it. We have to provide a resistance. And so we want to give the incoming administration the opportunity to show us what they are. But my experience is that when they show us what it's not necessarily in line with our belief system. So that's where we're operating from. We've created with actually the National Coalition for Housing Justice has created some things that may be under attack. One, really quickly, and I'll shut up, is there have been some challenges or some really bad practices when it comes to the education for homeless children and youth. And if you live in the DC area, you're seeing that program has been potentially misused by schools to make better football teams. And so we see that might be another target. So as Anthony said, there are tons of homeless children in our communities, in our institutions, and we absolutely have to get out in front and protect that. So we want to know what you need from us to help you in that way. I'm sorry for the long dialogue, but I just wanted to kind of share at least our perspective on what we might see over the next 4 years. But please, we would love to hear from everybody. If there are things you want to know more about when it comes to organizing, or even if it's, to Mustafa's point, how to get started, how to find funding, how to get a 501c3, we're happy to do any of those things because we want people to be prepared for what's coming. So I'm going to stop there and we'll open the floor up. Did I take the whole hour? Or
Thank
is
you.
there some time?
No, you're good. Thank you, Donald. Yes, this is open discussion now. Please, we want to hear from you. This is your meeting. This is what we came here for. So I want to hear what your input is. And now we'll move forward because we want to make sure everything we move forward with in 2025, it comes from our partner because at the end of the day, we'll be doing that together. So that's why we're here. Thank you. I saw Christine. Go ahead. And I would like to hear new voices, please. If you're new, this is a safe space, open, and feel free to raise your hand and I'll call on you. Christine, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Francis, and Donald also. So I'm Christine, and the National Coalition for the Homeless is a nonprofit partner for the film that I'm directing. I have just a couple of thoughts. One, I went to the Montgomery the event last night, Anthony. It was so well done. I put just quickly in the chat that it showed what it takes, but it showed the stamina and the will and the effort. And I thought it was a really inspiring, not to make light of it at all, but it's sort of like a pep rally, as we're speaking of football, but like a pep rally before going into it or, going into battle. So compliments on that. Donald, you and Francis and I, we've talked about the film Americans with No Address. And I actually saw it last night. I saw a screening, and the director and producer and William Baldwin, Billy Baldwin were there at the panel afterwards. I know that it was very disturbing to see the film, partly because of the subtlety of the messaging and the stance about housing first, and them saying that well-intended measures were just not working, and we're wasting a lot of money. And anyway, and you all, it's now on Amazon and a couple of other platforms, but I'm just wondering, a number of people have approached me about the film over the past few months. But I'm wondering what you all are, how you want to, what your stance is sort of officially, and how I can help. I'm actually very glad that we're making the film that I'm directing, From Hope to Home, because it is about, it approaches the issue from the standpoint of people who now are homeless. I mean, who are now housed, who were unhoused before, and the success stories and housing. The whole permanent supportive housing is a definite through line. So I'm glad. I know the power of film, and I'm glad we have something that's in the works that is not going to be carrying that message, which is one of the reasons why I'm very glad that NCH is one of our nonprofit partners, as is Covenant House, as is the Westside Food Bank, and I'm hoping that we have a veterans organization as well, so that it reflects the communities that we're talking about. But yes, so your thoughts on Americans with No Address?
Thank you, Christine. Donald, do you have a comment on that statement, Faculty and different people?
So here's my take on it. I know that the people behind that film are from the Discovery Institute. One of the principals there is Robert Marbut, and Robert Marbut is the former executive director of the Interagency Council on Homelessness. And I know that I've visited his shelter in Florida. And I know that it is not, their design is really about everyone needing to be either in substance abuse or mental health treatment. And that the whole issue of homelessness is about moral deficiencies and behavioral health issues. And we know that that's not true. Now, I have tried to be open-minded about it. They actually came to us and offered us proceeds from the film. What we requested was a screening, so we could be very open-minded about our opinion, and they have not provided it. My sense, and I've heard exactly what you heard, Christine, that it is kind of the message, even as subtle as it is, and even though there are celebrities involved in the process, it does kind of demean homeless people. And we would not be supportive of anything that demeans people experiencing homelessness. So we have attached ourselves to more positive portrayals of people experiencing homelessness, although they do have a pretty robust campaign to try to get nonprofits behind it. So, and there are people that don't share the same idea about permanent supportive housing as we do. And you know, just to be clear, our stance on permanent supportive housing has always been the same. We think that it is a tool when it comes to ending homelessness. It is not the tool. It does not end homelessness by itself. It has to be accompanied by other resources, other programs, and there's room for a lot of different programs. So there is no one cookie cutter model, but it is not something that people have been hurt by, in our opinion. What is hurting people is we're not producing enough housing. And if that program has a chance of being effective, we have to dramatically increase the housing resources. So that's what we've been. We remain somewhat open-minded, but we have a lot of misgivings because of what we have heard from others about it, and they haven't been willing to share it with us.
Yeah, one thing is I did speak with the producer, Robert Craig, afterwards, and I asked him, because there are a lot of organizations that are on their, that nonprofits that are on their sort of website, their billing. And I said, they're giving 50% of the net proceeds to to charities that are signed up, and so I said, where is the money that what organizations are receiving the money? And he said, well, if you want, I think he thought I was with an organization, but he said, if you go to our website, you can sign up and we vet them, and then they will get proceeds. So it is basically it's a way of getting the endorsements that might be a little bit not as forthright as when you see, organizations listed. The other thing is they do mention, just to be accurate, they do mention that, there's a range of options. But my sense was very much what you just said, that it does really say that people, if you put people into permanent, if you put people into housing without having first been treated for mental illness or substance abuse, then you're wasting your money. And it really made it seem like everybody needed to go on that path, and instead of really talking a lot about housing and the benefits of the wraparound support.
Thank you, Christine. I'm glad to thank you so much. Looking forward to set up a meeting with you and following up on that. We do have a lot of people raise hands raised, which is fantastic, and I hope more hands comes up. And with that, as we have more people, we ask that you keep your comment or statement brief so that we have more people speak. I'll go to Donna and then Lou next. Donna, go ahead.
Hey, thank you very much. Donna Alger from Southern Maine. Sorry, I was responding to Sue in the chat. And that was one of my questions, is some state legislation that we could introduce here. We are having the issue everyone else is. Our city is saying that there's room in the shelter, 10 to 15 beds open up in the morning, and boom, they're taken right away. And then we still have a couple hundred people outside. And the city says, no, but shelter beds keep opening up. And yeah, right, okay. So we need some kind of legislation. I think earlier I heard what we need from the National Coalition is like common messaging. What is the common messaging? And we might get that from the state captains meetings. And also I heard Donald talk earlier. I think he spoke about the position on sanctioned camps. We are actually being pushed into a position now because we have no warming center in our largest city in the state. And we now have people pushing for a sanctioned camp. So I kind of really need some help with how to deal with that. So maybe I can talk with Donald later. What we learned at the national conference in San Jose was to be more strategic. So a few of us are taking that approach, and we're all here in this meeting from Maine. Cheryl and Zach was here. Yep, he's still here. So Zach's organization is doing like the on the street stuff. He's doing protests. He has one scheduled coming up because, like I said, we have no warming center. I have a social media presence with over 1,000 followers, very well respected. I create maps of all of our state shelters, state warming centers. I stay in contact with, and I'm a member of, like our COC, our Homeless Council. And then, so I do the social media push. Zach also does that. But then Cheryl is very high level in our state. She is on our board for our COC. So we're pulling together all of the information so we can be smart and strategic. We went and we spoke to city council. We gave personal stories. And I just want to thank the coalition for teaching us and helping us learn. and let you know that we have brought it back home and we are using it. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dana. Yes, follow up with us and Dana, of course, and also state captains group. That's how we're encouraging people to sign up, because we'll be strategic planning out a lot of things through that venue, so that we make sure like the voices are coming from the state. So thank you for that, and please encourage your network to join us on that work as well, because there's a lot of action planning we'll be doing on that group. So please do that. Fantastic work in your state, and we look forward to more trainings, coming up on policy, how to reach out to representatives. All those things are coming up. So we like to hear those ideas that they're actually working, you're actually using them. That actually encourages us to come up with new stuff to actually provide you for resources to actually do training more. So thank you for that, Dana. I want to go next to, I saw Louis next. Go ahead. If you can, please, I ask that everybody keep briefly so that we have more people to speak. Thank you. Hello?
Hey, this is Lou. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm still alive in Cleveland, Ohio. All right. Since Donald did not take the whole hour, I will take the whole hour. I'm just joking. Okay. Now, first thing I would like to know, do you think the director of the, whatever the Jeff does right now, will Jeff be replaced? That's one important thing. Because for that case, Jeff has only been the one from the advocacy side of the arena instead of from the administrative type of arena only to be the leader of the group. But there are still lots of limitations put on this particular entity, so the progress has been still limited, but better than before. So my concern is if he will be replaced with somebody more closer to Dr. Ben Carson or whomever right now supposedly put on the HUD. That's one thing. And the other thing we know that the funding right now for social services will definitely be limited, just like they want to kill some of the good ideas, even they have been misused. There will be even lots of more bad ideas coming in. So capital budget and operational budget for homeless services and other health and human services will all be cut. We can expect that to happen. So do we have anything we can do about this part? I mean, we have to do that aggressively because we can imagine the new Capitol Hills would not be generous at all. Thank you.
I can just speak to that real quickly. I know that Jeff is actually going to be stepping down prior to the new administration, probably within the next week or so. And he had planned that already. But the actual position is not actually authorized. And I know that in the last administration they did appoint someone. There is thought that there may not even be this position moving forward in the next administration because there was some challenges.
That much. I have guessed that much. They want to eliminate anything helpful, on our behalf. Thank you.
We don't know that for sure yet, but there is some thought that they might not even renew this position. So we will see.
Yeah, thank you, Donald. Thank you, Lou, for a great question. Next, I'm going to go to Zachary. And again, I will emphasize, let's keep our comments and statement and questions short so we can have everybody speak and new voices. Thank you. Zach, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Francis. Great to see everyone, and just thank you all for all your dedication and hard work, and you're so inspired. I want to second everything Donna said, and then I will keep it very brief, but myself personally, we need some help here in Maine, and I need some more education and would love any kind of help or training around. We have it's a very small population in Bangor, Maine, but we have a HIV cluster that currently has broken out, and this is something that is new to, I'm sure, most of the outreach community in all of Maine. I actually have never even heard of the HIV cluster in Maine. before, and this is basically our second, or well, probably our fifth biggest city, probably second biggest population wise. So this is directly affecting our homeless and substance use community in Maine. So, and the two definitely go hand in hand. So this is definitely something that I would love some help and some trainings or education around.
Thank you, Zach. For sure. We actually will be following up before the end of December. We'll be sending out like 5 or 6 questions, actually asking about exactly these questions about what kind of training you need in the communities and how we can provide those so that we can actually have, so that like we know like on call it's difficult to come up with those ideas on the spot. So once you have some time, you can actually reply to the email back to us so that we can have it on like in writing what you actually need. So we can start developing resources and material for that specific trainings, and we'll be having those live trainings as well as material that we can send to you for those specific things. So we please watch out for the email with that information. We ask that you please respond so we know what you want us to help with. So that's the goal of that. So that should be coming up soon. Thank you so much, Zach, and the work you're doing over there. Next, I'm gonna go to David, and then Sue next.
Yeah, just want to make a comment about this shelter being available issue, which is a fairly important issue, I think, in us moving forward. In my opinion, Sue put in some excellent model language. The chat here for legislation that I think that we would promote in terms of allowing people to sleep in public spaces. The only caveat that I would put in order to make it politically palatable to I think reasonable people, and I'm saying everybody except for the extreme right-wing wacko, which unfortunately, which there are a significant number of. But I think for most moderate, for most thinking people, I think they would support any law that would provide for sleeping in public as long as shelter is not available. They would prohibit sleeping in public if shelter is not available. So the key thing is, how do we determine whether shelter is available? Under a 20-year consent decree that we had here in Miami called the Pottinger Consent Decree, we had a well-defined process determining and verifying whether shelter is available. And basically, through the coordinated entry system of most CLCs throughout the country, there's only one way you determine whether shelter is available, and that's through the HMIS process. And that only happens between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. every morning. So that's the only time that you know when a bed is truly available, unless you have specified beds that are reserved that for the police, which we had here in Miami called Pottinger beds, a specific number of them. But even then, you don't know whether all those beds are occupied or not. So basically, the only hours that you know are between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m., and then you can fill those beds at 10 a.m. through a coordinated system where the police are able to interact with HMIS. Police cannot arrest people at 2 or 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning for sleeping in the park because they don't know whether a bed is available at those hours because they don't have the systems and the processes available to them. So I think that if we push the type of model legislation that Sue has articulated and put into the chat with an additional provision that says that if shelter is that sleeping on public property is not prohibited if shelter is not available, and then tie that into a defined process to verify and to transport and to place people into shelter. That is the type of legislation that I think would be uniformly acceptable to people across the political spectrum.
Thank you, David, for your comments for sure. In addition
Francis, may I respond to what David just said?
Would you hold on? There are people raise hands already when I give you.
I understand that, but I would like to respond to what David said.
I'll give you 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Basically, this number has a big problem because lots of shelters still close their daytime hours. They do not let people in until evening. And this is part of the reason why it has been this bad. And that's why the MSHIS will not help anything on this. Because if they don't open it, how can we have that shelter beds no be available or not available? They close the whole place until the evening.
Thank you, Luke.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry. Thanks. In addition to that, also NCH, we have a policy lead here, and Dano can speak more real about it. We're also working on some other legislations that we'll be working on in addition to the organizing work. As you know, organizing going hand in hand with the demand. So that I have a policy demand and also the organizing work to push the demand itself. So that's coming
Just a quick 10-second response. It's through the HMIS system. As I said, we had a defined protocol here that worked for 20 years under Pottinger, where it's through the HMIS system and it's through the coordinated entry where people are placed at 10 a.m. Okay, and I can go into more details later because we're under limited time now.
Thank you,
but
David.
It's a system that worked for 20 years.
Thank you, David. Lou and David, if you want to connect, please put your emails in the chat and connect through that way as well so I can get to more people. Thank you. Next, I'll go to Sue. And go ahead, Sue.
Francis, and again, the draft legislation that I put in, I think it's just to give a base, and I think what folks want to do with that language, encourage any comments that you have on it, and those have been helpful. So a couple points, I think one in our organizing, that we need to make sure that we recognize the attempts to try to divide the communities and divide programs against each other, and I think Donald has mentioned that already in regards to how we look at the entire continuum to housing. I think that some of the things that we need to challenge the new administration as they are promoting this is the really use of the federal surplus properties and land, and that I think in the takeovers that we really look at federal properties first, and certainly in the 80s we did the HUD property takeovers and did great work there and got the property disposition program where we were able to use those HUD units for transitional housing for $1 a year. A couple other really quick points. One, I think with Zach, please email me. We have a very strong HIV/AIDS homeless coalition and housing coalition to help. Happy to send you their information too. And then I think that as we look at the potential of sanctioned encampments, Donald mentioned that, yes, they could end up being like concentration camps, but I do think that we're already in Minnesota having conversations with communities about how we really create opportunities of wraparound services in specific places where people would be safe to be. While we don't have enough shelter and housing opportunities. So I think, again, I encourage people to think creatively as we're moving forward. And if we're going to have lawsuits against supportive housing, I think we should have lawsuits against gated communities also. Thanks.
Thank you, Sue. Please, if you want to connect with Sue, put your emails in the chat. And Sue, if you can do the same so we can connect, that would be great. Zach, specifically you with the information you requested, please connect with Sue so that I can be able to help you in that capacity. Next, I'm going to go to, I don't see a name, but I see a letter, so W-A-N-I. Please go ahead.
Hello, my name is Des Martinez. I'm previously unhoused, but currently We Are Not Invisible, and I am the founder of Fresno Homeless Union here in Fresno, California. For about 10 years, I've been advocating here in Fresno. I've been going statewide, begging for help in the Central Valley because it seems that our cities, in the smaller cities and towns, are getting overlooked here in California. And we hear a lot about the big cities, but my gosh, I've been in this for 10 years and I've never known. I love you guys for the Lived Experience Conference. Oh my gosh, it was amazing. I attended it. I got to do a presentation and I heard about you guys. So I'm glad. I'm blessed to hear about you guys, to know there's many more people like you guys that are out there fighting this. Also, I would like to respond to the safe camps. So I had a safe camp here in Fresno, California. It was the only safe camp in the state of California that was allowed, and ours was self-governed. So what happened was I went back and took land back from state property. I sat on it and I took control over it. The state loved what I was doing. They allowed me to be on their property. The city and the county, though, terrorized me for about a year and a half. with threats and all kinds of stuff, sending the police, the fire marshals, all kinds of stuff I had to deal with. But the state had my back because they knew there was a need. My camp was specifically for camps for women fleeing domestic violence because we have a lack of shelters here. Also for women that are on the streets that are being raped, currently by being unhoused. Also was a camp for families because we have so many children on our streets. The school system validates how many children are homeless in the school system, but our city ignores it. So I was taking on children. It worked. It worked because it was self-governed. I drove myself crazy. I actually lived on the property, but it'll work if it's self-governed. If you I put a link in the chat to one of the articles that was written about the Safe Camp here in Fresno, California, and the street family members themselves named it the Dream Camp because it was somewhere where you can go safe. Many people are out on the streets, lack of shelters. Shelters are closing now, being converted into so-called affordable housing. But with the amount of people that want help, need a safe space to go. I know people are against these camps, but if they can be self-governed, ran by us, and I was very strict. You can see how clean my camp was. Everybody had chores. Everybody had rules. There was always something you had to do. You had to be progressive. You had to fill out your paperwork for your food stamps or social service work, job or school. Like, it was adamant in order if you there for the purpose to get better, then get better. Just because you're living in a dirt field doesn't mean we can't try, right? So it was great. It was amazing. The mayor snuck behind me and was getting it from the state of California, and the state's only for selling or leasing. So therefore, since there was a bidder on that property, I ended up losing it. But it was never shut down, and the state supported it. So it can be possible. But you have to get the right people running it, self-governing it, not having city or county officials involved telling us how, or even other individuals that have never been homeless trying to tell us how to live. You need to have it self-governed by the individuals that are actually living there on the property. Rules, chores are a must. Chores are a must.
Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us.
Can I just speak to that really quickly, Francis? I'm gonna just take 1 second on this because I want people to understand where we're coming from. We believe in people's agency. We believe that a self-governed camp may be useful in a temporary sense for people, and we would not oppose that in any way. What we oppose is the federal government with infinite resources saying that the only thing we can do for people experiencing homelessness is to put them in a camp. With hundreds of thousands of abandoned buildings, with dollars for housing all over the place, we can't allow the government off the hook by saying all we can come up with is a vacant lot for people. So that's where we're coming from. We're not opposing self-agency in any way. We're just saying that the federal government in the richest country in the world, the solution for homelessness should not be an outdoor location.
Thank
I
you.
agree. We combine those two together, right? How do we work those together? Because today, right now, I have 12 children on the street that need to be in a safe location, but there's no shelter. And I totally agree with what you're saying. But right now, today, millions of people are on our streets in the United States, and they need a safe place out of the cold right now, especially. So how do we combine what you're saying and safe locations for individuals? Because today they're dying on the streets, and we can't fight this and wait for the system to change overnight. So how do we fix it together?
For sure. Thank you so much. That's a discussion that we will be organizing on, and our policy, legislation, that's how we're working as well. Thank you so much for joining us, and your voice is very important as we organize and move forward. I'm going to give opportunities for other people to speak as well. Mustafa, your hands has been up for a while, so please, we only have 9 minutes. There's other hands up there. Please be brief. And if I cut you off, it's not personal. It's just I gotta get to everybody else. Thanks for understanding in advance. I'm going to go to Mustafa. Mustafa? I'll come back to you, Mustafa. I'm not going.
I'm here. My bad. I was contemplating on what it was I was going to say, but so pertaining to what it is that I've been hearing, and I'm looking over at what you guys had said was the funders. What is this again? the Funders Together program, right? Donald, it spoke on the Funders Together as being a part of working with each other, learning a little bit more about them. So I pulled them up, and so I'm trying to understand how it is that I can benefit from this, because I'm not a 501c3 right now. The IRS is dragging their feet on approving my 1023, and so as of right now, I can't even apply for a grant for what it is that we're trying to do. So I guess it's what it is that we need is for somebody to be a parent corporation or to extend their exemption to us and help apply for the grant for us, you know what I'm saying, and partner with us and oversee how the money is being spent. The way we can get busy with what it is that we got going on down here. So far, the city, the entire city, and plus I'm a member of the Baltimore City COC. So they have a $30 million budget that we're playing with, which, you know, we're going to start building tiny homes out here in certain parts of Baltimore, right? And so the only thing that we need is money for land and whatever else, administration costs, equipment, things like that. But without the 501c3s filing, there's a lot of grants that I don't qualify for. So my thing is this: will the NCH partner with us and help us not only be able to obtain the grant or to extend its exemption to us so we can apply for the grant, and will it partner with us and oversee how the money is being spent? Will accumulate, or will account for every dollar, every dime that's being spent, you know, how it's being spent, take pictures, whatever. We'll give you full file report, whatever, but is there a way that we can possibly partner?
Thank you, Mustafa. As Donald mentioned, please reach out to him directly with that specific question. And this goes to everybody on the call who has that specific questions. Please reach out to Donald. As Donald explained earlier, is on an individual basis right now as they're waiting to build more that capacity out. But for now, please just direct all those specific questions to Donald, and we'll move forward from there. Thank you so much. Please reach out to Donald, Mustafa. We'll go to Anthony. Please be brief as well. Thank you. Go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah, I'll keep it very brief. I just wanted to respond to both what Donald and Des Martinez and Fresno, their remarks on this. And I agree with what Des said, and it seems that we are in agreement that it's not an either-or proposition. I think that the idea of the camps that are constructed and led and fortified and politicized, and the union and other organized homeless are able to compel the cities to officially recognize a self-governed, no police coming in, union representation, that type of thing. Then they can become staging grounds for what Donald said is absolutely correct, the struggle to get permanent housing into all these millions of vacant units and possible properties that are sitting there empty for speculators, and get homeless people in there. So I think it's a question and Des, of course, was a named plaintiff, and the union was also a plaintiff in a successful lawsuit in Fresno to push back against an ordinance that would have prevented witnesses and union people and reporters to even being around a sweep, and that was a successful fight. So I think what Des is saying is absolutely correct. It's been our experience with Camp Resolution, Camp Compassion, Camp Cormorant, all the camps that we've been involved with. Some have lasted, some have not, but in every case, self-governed and used as staging grounds for housing and to build our homeless union movement. So I just wanted to comment.
Thanks, Anthony. Go to Renee, unless there's to be brief. So we have another hands up. So go ahead, Renee.
Okay, I just want to say this, okay, to Donald and to everybody. Okay, I'm connected, okay, in a lot of ways to this new administration, okay. I'm friends with some of the cabinet picks, okay, and a lot of these problems, okay, that y'all are claiming that is going on, it's been going on under Biden administration. Biden said that he was going to reduce homelessness by 25% by the year 2025. I got a letter written to me from Biden stating that. And it's a massive system failure all across the board. Okay, nobody knows, okay, what the new administration is going to do. But I do know that Bobby plays a big part in this administration, and a lot of his policies is going to be implemented in this new administration. So for Sue and everybody to assume that this is going to happen, when you assume, okay, you make yourself look really, really, okay, not knowing anything. Okay, so unless you got facts,
Renee,
please, okay, stop doing that.
Renee, thank you for your comment. Please, if you have any specific comment for Sue, please direct them to them privately. Thank you. I'll go to Lou. Lou, is your hand up? Go ahead.
Well, I think with the current resources, if everybody already has some good program ongoing, keep on doing it, because I really doubt if we will get a continuous budget. Because not only all the social services agencies, the regular funding will be cut. Asking for extra grants and donations, I believe it will be worse, because they like to create a situation that we will just fight for limited resources. They like to make the whole thing as limited to us, because that's how they can put the funding into other things to make people even more homeless and more people to be homeless. That's how I will put it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lou. We are coming to the end of our meetings. We appreciate the energy people have had on this call. That's what this call is about, and we will continue to build power. With that, I'm going to give Donald, I know you have your hand up already, just give us also a closing statement as we look forward to what we'll be working on together. Thank you. Donald, go ahead.
Well, I'll just say this. We are a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization. And it doesn't matter who's in office, our work doesn't stop. And if you saw my statement about the election, the truth is that homelessness has increased under both parties for the last 40 years. We've had some periods where there was a kind of leveling off of homelessness, but homelessness has continued to increase. And we know going in that there are going to be more resources for people at the top of the economic ladder. And every time that happens, it has a negative impact on people at the bottom of the economic ladder. It's just basic economics. If you give more money to millionaires, the people that are in need of services that are marginalized in this country are going to suffer. Now, we don't know what the specifics behind the rest of the policies are, but we know that there's going to be a tax break. It's been promised. It happened last time. It'll probably happen again. Many of us remember some of the cuts that happened during that time. So we have to be prepared for that. We can't sit back and wait for them to show their colors if we already have an idea of where we're going. And hopefully there is some positive that comes out of this. But whether there's a positive or a negative, we have to be prepared. And we have to fight, and we have to make sure that the people we serve, because at the end of the day, it's not about a party affiliation. It's about our affiliation with people experiencing homelessness. So in light of that, we have to keep moving forward. We have to organize. We have to make enough noise that we are people that really matter in this country. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're not affiliated with anybody except for people experiencing homelessness. So let's hope. There's some really good things that come out of this administration, but we are not going to sit by and wait for that. We're going to prepare ourselves for the opposite. And I hope you'll stay with us. We have a lot of things that are a bit controversial, that there are many different sides to an issue. But the side we have to stick to is making sure that those that are suffering in homelessness do not continue to suffer. So we really appreciate you all being here. We really are excited. As Christine said, we had a pep rally yesterday. Let's have a pep rally every day internally, so that when we wake up, we think about what we can do to end homelessness in this country. And I thank all of you for what you're doing. And let's keep moving forward. And let's keep having open dialogue. There's no one that's completely right. There's differences of opinion. There's different strategies. But together, we can come up with a strategy that will help us get to the next phase, where we can stop seeing people sleeping on the streets of the richest country in the world. So thank you very much. You all have a wonderful weekend. If we don't see you again, have a wonderful holiday. If we don't see you again this year, have a wonderful holiday. And we look forward to kicking off of January with some momentum and some power and changing things as we see them in the richest country in the world. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. As Donald mentioned, the holidays, and I'll see you on different calls, as well as be ready for January. So direct actions and policy moving forward. Only unity can move us forward. So thank you.